Chapter 17, Part 2. The crowd stood tense. Squirts of chewing tobacco raised silent puffs of dust. Jack's heart was pounding in his ears. The gladiator closed the distance between them, and the pride of Grizzly Flats wasted no time. He swung an arm with enough power to bust through a barn door. When it had run its course, the crowd was astonished to see Praiseworthy still standing. He had left nothing more than the wind. He had ducked with the greatest of ease. The straight brawler, with his wide open stance, signaled his punches in advance. Immediately, Praiseworthy countered with a left jab. It didn't amount to much, but it surprised the mountain ox. Jack gazed toward the center of the clearing with a leap of hope. In the afternoon heat, Praiseworthy's back glistened with sweat. The new muscles along his arms and shoulders looked polished. Almost 2 months in the diggings, swinging a pick from morning till night, had had their effect. He had the power to bust through a barn door himself. And here is the fun sketch. And a reminder of the cover of this book. Come on, Ox, finish him off. Don't be scared of him, Bullwhip. Again the mountain ox swung, and again Praiseworthy escaped with nothing more than a wind burn. He was getting the hang of it. He was vigilant. He concentrated. He knew that one misstep, one miscalculation, and the mountain ox would end the match with a single blow. 5 minutes passed. To Jack it was 5 hours, 5 days. The mountain ox swung one haymaker after the other, but Praiseworthy dodged, ducked, or stepped aside. He cut a tall, lithe figure in the afternoon dust. Lithe is slender. Having by now made a thorough study of his opponent, as the book advised, Praiseworthy devised his attack. Left jab, he told himself. Keep them coming like bee stings to the proboscis. The mountain ox may be all muscle, but a nose is a nose. The crowd, in growing amazement, watched and chewed tobacco and squirted juice. Not only was Praiseworthy still on his feet, he hadn't been touched. The oysters in the Chinese chow chow burned to a crisp. Praiseworthy kept jabbing with his left, and the mountain ox's nose turned as round and red as a tomato. Once, when the gladiators had worked themselves to the very edge of the crowd, the mountain ox let fly a carefully aimed wallop. Just as carefully, Praiseworthy ducked, and the blow collided with Cheap John, the auctioneer. He went flying backwards, knocking down 6 miners like so many dominoes. The bout continued without let-up, and the sun began to set through the pines. Praiseworthy had hardly exerted himself. He would duck, dispatch a left jab, and resume the stance he remembered so well from the Gentleman's Book of Boxing. But the mountain ox had been swinging his arms like a windmill, and now his tongue was very nearly hanging out. His brawler's arms, once so wide, he now seemed to drag at his sides. But like a wounded animal, he was still dangerous. Still, it seemed to Praiseworthy, the time had come to close the book. Big as the pride of Grizzly Flats, he had a jaw like other men, and a jaw was a jaw. A final bee sting, the mountain ox shook his head and stuck out his jaw in fury. Praiseworthy stepped in with a right cross from the shoulder exactly as the book advised, and it felt to him as if he were hitting a barn door. Jack held his breath. The mountain ox was still on his feet 5 seconds later. But then he keeled over backwards like a statue and lay spread-eagled in the dust. A roar burst from the crowd, and Pitchpine Billy rushed in to hold up Praiseworthy's arm. The winner! I don't know how he done it, but you saw it. The fair name of Hangtown has been saved. Boys, let's celebrate! And this is the sketch of all of the action. Praiseworthy pulled on his shirt, and Jack handed him his revolver. He stuck it in his belt. The miners were raising noise all around them, but the two partners regarded each other, exchanging a silence. Finally, Praiseworthy said, "How was that, Jack?" I backed up my fair reputation square and fair, didn't I? Jack's face glowed as if he'd swallowed a lantern. He was bursting with pride. There wasn't a man in the diggings he'd rather have for a partner, not Pitch Pine Billy or Quartz Jackson or Jimmy from town or Buffalo John. It wasn't a fair match, no sir, Jack grinned. The mountain ox can hardly read or write. Why, he doesn't know B from a bull's foot. And now we're on the last chapter of our book, chapter 18, which I will read in just a minute for our last installment.